Okay, Sister Blake, if you could just give your full name, your place and date of birth.
My name is Merle Blake. I was born in Jamaica, St. Anne's Parish, Endeavour District. My date of birth, 1940. It's my birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday! All right, so when you, St. Anne's, you said you were
St. Anne's, yes.
Right. And at what age did you leave from St. Anne's to come over to England?
I was 20 years old, just over 20. I came in March 1961.
Right.
And yeah, 61. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And was it just yourself travelling?
Myself, yes.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what memories have you got of St. Anne's growing up those 20 years?
It was good. Looking back at my childhood on to my teenage years, I had fun memories. One of the most one that sort of remain vivid in my mind is Christmas time. As family, my granddad usually invite the family home Christmas time for dinner. But before dinner, we usually do certain amount of preparation, and one, he would cut the bushes around the home, like you do your lawn mowing here, and he would what we call whitewash the house. That's like painting, but it's in, you know, they use lime and it's white. So you'd get that sort of thing done, and then near to Christmas, he would kill either a cow or a pig, and he'll sell half of it to the butcher and keep the other half for his family. He would give us pieces like cuts to take to his sons and his daughters for their family. And then Christmas time now, he does a large cooking for the family. We've got this special drink with sorrel. He had a lot of that. And so his wife would prepare the drink for us 2 weeks like before Christmas Day. So that would be ready, you know, with the rum and everything in it. And it was usually a happy time for the family. And the other occasion is pimento time. We have got a lot of pimento. It's a thing that we use to season in and other things. And after, he would employ people in to break the pimento and sort it out. And when he's finished, us as his grandchildren would go after and pick the pimento for ourselves and dry them and sell them for ourselves, and we have our own pocket money. Those bring back fun memories to me about my childhood. As I got older, I remember sort of become responsible in selling in my aunt's shop. She had a grocery shop. So oftentimes she's going to the farm, to the field we call it, or to town to get grocery. She leaves me in the shop and I'll be responsible for it until she comes back home. And also they usually have a party, garden party in the summer, usually be between August time. So we'd all get dressed, you know, and go to this party, and they'd be dancing around the pole, this pole, I forget what they call it now. But that brings back, you know, and also the mission program at the Baptist Church. On the Tuesday, they usually have mission on the Sunday, but on the Tuesday they had the mission, another mission service, and that when they have a lot of the old boys who were educated, like the police, the doctors and teachers who grew up in the district, got educated and went away to work. They usually come back on the Tuesday. So it was always lovely to be a part of that, see people coming in and, you know, greeting them. Those are the memories.
Oh. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned your granddad. Did you actually live with him? Or?
Yes, I was brought up by my grandmother, my paternal grandmother. That's one of the custom in Jamaica. grandparents often like to be the carer for their first grandchildren or grandchild of, whether their daughter or their son. So I was like the first grandchild from my child from my dad, and I was brought up with them.
And how many brothers and sisters did you have?
I've got one brother and one sister.
And you're the eldest?
I'm the eldest, yes.
So your family, you had your grandfather, your brother and your sister. Did they all go to the Baptist church as well?
No, my sister and myself go to the Baptist church.
And your granddad?
My granddad and grandmother, yes. They go to the Baptist church, yes. And my aunt.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you working in the shop, was that the job that you left when you came over to England?
No, I was a seamstress, a dressmaker, do you call. I wanted to do nursing, but I didn't get the support. My grandmother's wishes was that I learn to sew, and she ensured that she sent me to learn to sew, so I was doing dressmaking.
What was the education like at the time?
I went to school and I left school at 16. If in Jamaica, if you didn't go on to do what we call the local examination, first, second, third year, then you leave school and go and learn to sew, or if you want to do catering, that sort of thing, you'd leave school and do that. But I went to school. My schooling was quite good, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the name of the school?
Gibraltar School.
And that was in the same area?
It is, yes, yeah, in St. Anne's, yeah.
So do you remember your first memories of when you first thought that you'd be coming to England?
Yes, I do. I really wanted to come to England because most of my friends had been away. So I had very few friends left, and I thought, this thing coming out, everybody's good, it's nice in England and all sorts. So I thought, well, yes, I would like to come. And that's why I came. But in coming, I told my mother that I would be staying for 3 years, and I'd be returning to look after her, to care for her. I was very concerned about her, and I wanted to go back to care for her.
Have you been back since?
I've been back 3 times, yes.
And
Yeah.
what do you think about how it's changed, if it has changed?
It is nice. Jamaica is nice. The improvement in some areas is good, but there are other areas that is to be desired, like the roads are still bad. Some of the town areas, the drainage and things like that, those still needs a lot of doing. But some of the people I knew, they've made good achievements, really. The housing, they've really improved on those. And people become so much more modern in some of the attitude I'm not too happy with, but the change has been good for Jamaica.
So when you were coming over to England, you said that you had friends and it seemed like England was a nice place.
Yeah.
What were your first impressions?
When I left the airport and come across this building, I thought, well, these factories are big, they're different. You could see the smoke coming out of the chimney. Now, I've never heard that you've got to keep the house warm with fire and things like that. So that was a bit strange. And I first lived in Walsall. When we reached Walsall, the first thing I noticed on the way down, they stopped at a cafe for refreshment. And the way they did the egg, that puts me off. I didn't eat it. When I got to Walsall, because at that time you have so many families living in one house, to get to our apartment we had to go through this alley and go into the back doors, and that was quite frightening. It was dark, there wasn't any light there, so it was quite frightening. Anyhow, I got in, and the house was so much different to that what I'm used to back home, what we know. We haven't got any house back home that built as these in England, so that was different. But the thing that I cannot forget is when I woke up in the morning, I came to my dad, and he had gone to work, but there was a woman downstairs, Mrs. Warner. He asked her to look after me, to take care of me. When I opened the curtain and looked down, I was living in the attic. When I looked down, I saw these people. To me, they were running, but they were not. They were only walking. That's how they walk. Now, in Jamaica, we walk at our own space. You know, you just take it steady. But there, to me, they were running, and I said, "Why are they running?" You know, everybody seems to be running to me. Yeah. So that sticks in my mind. I can never forget it. It was strange.
So the pace of life was.
It was different. Yeah.
How did you adjust to that?
It was difficult at first because it's as if I was living in England, but my mental part of me was in Jamaica. In Jamaica, when you live, I don't know if you've been to Jamaica, but you live in like on this hill, and somebody live there, and you need them, and you just shout across, and you said, "Mrs. Brown," you call that person. And I could hear like people calling people, because that's what I used to back home, and it wasn't happening, but it was just me. Getting towards the winter, that was terrible for me. I got really homesick. And although I was working, but I wasn't at work. I was in Jamaica. Because then it was dark and the fog. I remember one morning I went to work, not knowing I had my gloves, because you know my dad ensured that I got my gloves and my coat, but I didn't use my gloves. And when I got to work, it's as if my nails, somebody had pulled them all out. It was burning, and I was in tears. But the workers were quite good, and they came across and they, you know, put their hands in mine and rub it together. So that sort of calmed me down.
And how did you travel?
By plane. I came by plane. Yeah, I came by plane. Yeah.
How long was that journey?
I think it was about 12. No, it was about 16 hours, because we stopped in New York. Plane stopped in New York, and then came across. So it was about 16 hours.
So was that your first flight?
It was my first flight, yes. My first time away from home.
Alone?
Yeah.
And your first job, what was that?
I was working at an aluminum factory in Walsall. I was making, they had what they call a core. If they're making like a chair, the main, before the chair is developed, they make the shape in sand and they call it core. So they make it, put it in a furnace and baked it. When it comes out, they knock it out of this casement that it's in. And we had to use like a file and smooth the rough edges off. And then they put it into this thing with the aluminum liquid in it. It was a lot different from what I've never worked for anybody back home apart from just making at home. Yeah. So it was different coming here and have to work for somebody out.
So it was totally different work that you went into.
Yeah, different.
How did you find getting employment?
That was easy. I got job the second week after being here. It was easy. I went there the morning and start the following day. So that was good.
So who did you stay with on your arrival here?
My dad.
Right.
My dad, yeah. Yeah, my dad, yeah.
And how was that difficult?
It was difficult because I didn't grow up with him. When I lived with my grandparents, he comes to visit, so it was like just a visit and he's off again. But coming here to live with him, that was it was different.
Did you find any of the friends that had gone before you? No,
I didn't, because some go to Burton and Trent, some live in Birmingham, some in London. And about 6 to 12 weeks after arriving here, I caught up with some in Birmingham. I went to this wedding, and I caught up with them at the wedding. But there wasn't anybody locally who I knew from home.
And did you continue going to the Baptist church when you arrived here?
No, because my dad had got saved and he was going to the New Testament Church of God. So I went to the New Testament Church of God.
And that's where you are?
I got saved, yes. Yeah, yeah.
So is there any other memories when on your first arrival, adjusting to things?
Yeah, first time I went to the shop with this Sister Warner, I wanted a bottle of, we call it aerated water back home. So I said, can I have a bottle of aerated water? And the woman said, pardon? I said, a bottle of aerated water. When I pointed to, she says, oh no, that's pop. Now back home, some people call porridge pop.
Oh, right.
So I thought, well, you know, this is strange. How can they call aerated water pop? It was different, yes. And the bread was different from what we got home because we usually get unsliced bread. The texture was different. You know, almost everything in the shop was different from what we usually get back home. I mean, there were things that we used to, we couldn't get them here. So it was like a new lifestyle for us, really. The meat, when I go to the shop and see the meat, again, that was different. Everything, we usually get our meat fresh to buy. When you cook the meat then, there was no taste in it. At that time, we couldn't get seasoning salt or that sort of thing. So it's a lot of matter of using a lot of curry and things to get a bit of taste, in it. And the rice, it would usually be porridge rice. So you couldn't sort of get the rice to do your rice and peas as you used to. And peas we couldn't get. So, you know, it was sort of a drastic change getting used to the system here.
The people, I mean, you said that you went to work and
yeah.
people were helpful with the cold weather.
Yeah,
Did you find that generally people were?
Yeah, they were helpful to a point. But what I noticed, when I started in the aluminum factory and then I started doing filing. And that was after the things, they were doing parts for gas fire. So I ended up doing filing, and it was what we call piecework. If you, the more you can do, the more money you earn. And of course, being new at the time, I was doing quite a bit. So when I did, like on the weekend, I'll do 100 and had, I didn't sort of put all that down. I had to record it. I only put like 100 down. And the extra would go over to next week, so I wouldn't have to work that hard. So I was earning more money than the other people who've been doing this job for years. And they become covetous about it. I remember the foreman, he came to me, they called me Myrtle. Myrtle, my wife is working down there, she's doing the same thing, and she's not earning the amount of money that you're earning. So they started getting different to me. And this one girl who both of us got the job at the same time, she came before me. She's from another. So when they start getting difficult, a bit envious like, we started talking in patois. And I remember one of the days, they did something and she was hungry and she talked in patois and I answered her. And one of the women said to me, oh, Myrtle, speak in English, we can't understand what you're saying. But we usually use that as a, you know, that was our weapon really. It's a weapon, you know, they didn't understand what we were saying. Sometimes it's nothing bad, but we just talk in patois sauce.
So did you find it difficult understanding the English accent?
Not really, no. There was something about the hygiene that had a bit, you know, it's difficult when you're working beside somebody and there's a scent coming from them, you know, unpleasant. That was a bit difficult. But then we soon found out that once myself and Gertie start working there that people start changing a bit. I mean, we as Afro-Caribbean, we take care of the things that we've got. That includes our clothing. We like to go clean. It hasn't got to be expensive, but just so clean. And it was summer then. I remember this day I was going home from work and I thought, well, I could do with a skirt. And I bought myself a bit of check material, lilac, one of my favorite colors, and I went home. And Saturday I made myself a skirt. So I went to work. It was only about 15 pence a yard it was at the time. Made myself a skirt. When I got to work Monday, I upset many people. How could I wear this new skirt to work? Wearing it's something I buy to wear to work, you know. So those were some of the things that we had to get over. And people usually make their children clothes as well. Children look smart, but again, like the people, the custom here, they're not used to that sort of things. And the color of the clothing was dull. So although it's expensive, it didn't stand out like our cheap material, you know, and it stands out. So those were some of the, you know, they got a bit envy about us, think, well, you know, you're showing off and that sort of thing. Mm.
So you had to use the resources that you had? I
did. When I used to it back home, I loved sewing. And when I came, after I got saved and went to the church, my pastor's wife, Sister Monfries, she invited me home one Sunday and she said she's got this machine, she wanted to get rid of it to get an updated machine. And she said, do you know anybody? I said, yes, I love it. So she sold me it for £5. And that's what I used to make my skirt. And I enjoy doing that because sometimes buying the ready-made clothes, it doesn't fit as if I make it if I had made it myself. So I started doing a lot of sewing. Instead of buying things from the shop.
Did you use that at all as a retail, like when making clothes for other people?
After I got married and came to Wolverhampton, yeah, when I started having children, I stopped working. I didn't work at all. I went back to work about 3 months after I had my first. It was about 6 months, 9 months it was when I went back to work. I left him with a childminder. And one of the days I went well, so I returned home from work. When I got to the home to pick my son up, I could hear him crying from outside. And I went in, opened the door, got into the house. I called the woman several times, no answer. I heard a man shout upstairs, she's gone to town. And just as I carried him and leave him in the house that morning, when I went back, it was the same way. Not changed. I don't know if she fed him. He was soaked. And I pushed the chair out that day and never go back to work.
So from then you stayed at home?
I stayed home, yes. Yeah.
Is that when you started to use your sewing skills?
Yeah. I did a lot of sewing during that period. Made the children clothes, ladies' underwear and sell them. Turbans. You know, I learned to drive, and it's from the earning from my sewing that I did. My sheeting, my curtains, everything. Yeah.
So how did you find managing money? You mentioned 15 pence a yard for them.
Yeah. It was difficult and not too difficult. Being an Afro-Caribbean and know you've got to manage and what you've got back home. You know, it wasn't too difficult for me. I'm not one that goes after what other people has. Providing I'm clean, I'm presented, I buy the things that I like. I don't always go after fashion, because fashion comes and within weeks it's gone. So I please myself. The first couple of years, coming from home, knowing what the conditions are there, I tried to save a bit, spend a bit, and send a bit home. So it was like serving 3 purposes. and you know, covering my living expenses here. But I did it. You know, I remember only 3 times, 4 that I take things out of catalogue. Yeah. And once it was a house gown. Second time it was a dress that I love. Third time it was a little soup, little rubber soup for one of my son. And the next time was a food mixer. And that's it. And the reason why I didn't do that, I'd rather to wait until I could save the money up and buy the things that I have. Because I know there are times living in houses with other people, you see what go on. And there are times when people call to collect the money. People haven't got the money to pay up the bills. I remember I took a blanket from this man, he came to the house. And I wasn't going to take it, but he encouraged me, take it. I said, look, I don't want to take it and you come and I haven't got your money because you will be different then. He said, oh no, that's all right. And it happened that one day came and I didn't have the money to pay him. And he was quite a different person. I said, okay. And I make sure I made that money up. And when he came the next time, I paid him all. And I said, don't call back at my house again. So for that reason, I try to manage within what I've got, within my budget.
Was that difficult once you had children?
It was difficult, but there are times when I denied myself and give the things that my children need.
How many children do you have?
5.
So how did, from first coming, how did you, and getting married and having a family and having your own home?
Well, I met my husband in 1961. It was maybe about September time. And we got married. My mother told me back home, she said, well, I started back home anyhow. I started things from my bottom drawer. So when I came here, I came with some sheets, some embroidered sheets, pillowcases, doilies, table cover. I came here with them. And she said to me, when you go to England, make sure you buy things for your bottom drawer. So within the financial constraint that I had, I started buying things before I met a partner or anything. And I remember I bought myself a pink candlewick bedspread. Okay, that was from bottom drawer. And then I started buying bits and pieces, putting aside. And yeah, we met within a year of meeting, we got married. We met like about September time, we got married the following year, June. The church didn't encourage long courtship. So they wanted us to get married before, but I said no. I said, I've just come to England and I haven't got anything and I'm not going to get married until. So during that period, it gave me the chance to buy the things, some of the things that I needed for my house. We got married in 1962, the 30th of June. And having children, as I said, with the first one, I went back to work when he was 9 months old. But then within 3 months, I stopped from working. So the rest of the other 4, I was at home, I didn't work. My husband, I was actually earning more than my husband when I was working. And yeah, we lived in a rented property. It was like 3 families of us living there. The owner of the house, myself, and another person. So we're paying a rent, but we do try to save a bit at the time. I remember the first house that we saw, we decided then we need a house of our own. The first house that we saw, they were asking like £2,800 for it. 3-bedroom, lovely house, lovely land, you know, on it, garage and everything. But he was only earning about, it was only £13 a week at the time. And with 2 children, it wasn't easy. But we managed to accumulate the deposit for the house. And we bought a lesser house, 2,500. Just in front of the other one, 2,500. So we had to rough it out, but we we didn't elaborate, sort of go on top, you know, furnishing and things. We buy new furnitures, but we go for the cheaper ones. Those days were good though. And as I said, I did my own curtains and things, so I didn't just buy the material, I made them. And we struggled. It was difficult at times. I mean, we couldn't have steak. Sometimes we couldn't have chicken. I know on a Sunday I had codfish for my dinner, but nobody knows. I was determined not to go and borrow from anybody. We managed within our means. So it was difficult, and that goes on for quite a while. But with the little sewing that I do, because I didn't buy ready-made things for myself, very little bought for the children we made, I sold them all. So that helped us to sort of manage. We could get material cheap in the market. I usually go and look for something good and reasonable and make them up, so they didn't go less than the other children. There was a point when we know we needed to get some things, but then we had two options, is either to borrow or trust or do without. And we decided we'd wait until we can afford it, because at the time I thought, well, the worst thing could ever happen is having so little coming in to spend, and you go and have a loan because you've got to pay back, and if the money isn't there, you couldn't pay it back. So we try and do without.
You just experiment by trust?
Credit. You know, you go to the shop and you say, can I have a packet of rice until next week? We call that trust. You go and trust from somebody. Yeah, yeah.
So your children, what was their schooling like?
The schooling wasn't too good. I had a bit of dispute actually with one of the school. I remember going to my daughter's, it was parent evening, and I went to the school, and my daughter reports she has 3 A levels, 3 grade A in sports, and when you look in the rest, it's C, D, and E. So I went to, oh, Mrs. Blake, your daughter is doing, I said, yeah, that's fine. I said, I noticed she's got 3A in sports. I said, when she leaves school, can she take that to the employer? I said, I've got 3 in sport. Oh no, Mrs. Blake. I said, okay. I said, why is she not progressing in other subjects, only sport? And they couldn't answer. I remember my goddaughter, she's older than my daughter, and they go to the same school. And they put her in for CSE because they didn't think she'd get the O-levels grade. When she did them, the grade she got was like an A-level grade. And that's the time when they turned to her mother and said, oh, if we'd known she would, we could have put her in for O-level. And that caused me to get really angry. And I wrote to the headmaster of the school.
Why do you think that was, that she was only progressing in the sports areas?
Because that's what they want her to do. I mean, the assessment, you know, what they give, the work what they give, it wasn't in order to get them to go beyond. You know, at that time you have the few blacks coming through doing well in sports, and because she was tall and she was good at certain sport, they tend to concentrate on the sport rather than the subjects that would give her a good background for further education, anything like that. You know? So I wrote to the headmaster, and he disagrees with me. But the following year, they changed, because black children weren't entering for O-levels, and it increased the following year. So although he disagreed with me at the time, he did something about it the following year.
Was that one of the eldest children that happened to? Did you have other children going through?
I've had other children going through. The one, because we're living like in a different area then. The 2 older one, actually one went to a special school. When he started school, before he started school, I noticed that there was something different with him. if he was sort of impatient, if he was playing with anything and it wasn't going right, he'd get into a temper tantrum, throw it away, and there wasn't any patience. So when he started school, every week I go to the infant school and I ask, how is he getting on? Oh, he's fine, he's fine, he's fine, he's fine. September come, send him back to school and bring him back home. They can't have him. So I went to the school and I said, look, I said, it's been here a year. I've been up every week and asking how he's getting, and I'm told he's fine, and now you send him back home. Oh yes, we can't have him and all sorts. I said, okay. And I went back home and I wrote to the education department. And I said, this is what's happening. I said, I need an answer and I need a reply from you by 2 weeks' time. And they did. Right? He was at home with me for a time because they had to, he was assessed and they had to find suitable school for him. So he was at home with me. At that time, now I had a shop. Right? A drapery shop. A drapery shop. So every day, I take him to the shop with me, and I bought him my ABC book and my different little book and exercise book. And while we're there at the shop with each day, I teach him. And when he eventually got back into school, he knows the letter of the alphabet, he knows different words, name them. The only thing that they had to do is just to get him to control his temper. Anyway, I observed him while he was at the school, and I noticed that he was more forward than the other children. So I went to the school and I said to the headmaster, I said, when is he going to move from this school? Oh, Mrs. Blake, he can't move from this school because he's this and because he's the other. And within 3 months, a letter came. He can be transferred to a mainstream school.
So what do you think that you instilled in your children the most? Most of all, what do you think it is?
To stand up for themselves. Don't take no for an answer. If they're sure they've got a point, a strong point, stand up for it. Don't stop until they get what they're entitled to.
Where is that? Where do you get that kind of?
I don't know. Don't ask me where, because if people, I suppose it's the upbringing we have back home really. My mother was quite good, but I didn't live with her until after my grandparent died. Then I went to live with my mother and I was about 16, 17 then. So I had like very little time with her, but she was a very strong person. She wanted the best for her children. I've learned quite a lot from her. And there are areas that she'll go into, and get what she wants. And I think that helps me. My brother, he's done very well academically, really. He was very, very good growing up. He was quite intelligent, very bright. So he addresses the governor foot when in Jamaica. He went to visit the school and he gave the address. So, my mother is that sort of person. So maybe I got that from her. But as I said, I just, and my children, there's only one out of the lot who isn't that forceful in their operation. But the others, they don't take no for an answer. They don't.
So you instilled the same?
Yes, yeah. You
think that's important?
It's important. In the country that we live in, the environment that we live in, it is important. Because without that, our children or grandchildren will suffer. One of my sons had a housing problem, and at the housing office they pushed him and they pushed him there, and they pushed him there. And I said, make an appointment. I said to his wife, I said, make an appointment and I'll go with you. And I went with them. And when they were saying, well, we can't, I said, look, the law says, and you're not doing that. I said, this must be sorted. It needed to be rehoused, and I wouldn't. And within 3 weeks.
Success stories?
Yeah. And I feel for the people. I've learned a lot in this country. If you don't speak up for yourself, nobody will. They turn you here and they push you there and everywhere, and nothing done. And anybody who I know they're struggling to get something done, I just help them with it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's been your experience?
It's been my experience, yeah. Yeah.
So once your children got older, did you go back to work?
Yes, when the youngest one, he was 11 when I went back to work. I started off as a community worker in East Town. I did that for 18 months. And then I worked in a youth training scheme. That was an experience for me, because I've never been away on a residential training sort of thing. So going away, the first one, it was an experience. But I managed, I coped, I observed other people and learned, you know, how they do things. And it was good. I don't regret it.
What was that? What type of work did that involve?
Supervision. For the youth training scheme, we usually do woodwork, sewing, just craft and woodwork, painting, decorating. But I was the supervisor for it.
And how long did you stay in that field?
3 years. 3 years, well, actually it's 7 years. I did 3 years in Wolverhampton and 4 years in Birmingham.
Did you have to do any training prior to when you started?
Yes, I did training in sort of management, you know, some training in management, and sort of finance, a bit in finance, like.
Was that in-house with the actual job, or was that with the college? Or?
I did management with the college, with Belston College, and the finance is sort of in-house. And in the management, there's a bit in about finance as well. And with the people that I work with, I'm somebody that I observe people while working, and I learn from that, so that helps me.
And what changes have you seen in Wolverhampton and Warsaw?
There's a lot of changes. Like when I started the community work first, there was a lot of young black people living in East Town. At that time, the Rastafarian thing was quite high. And, you know, people sort of decide to live one life. They rob our country. So what I'm getting now is what they owe me. And I remember talking to several little groups of young people. I said, look, they were having children. I said, look, you're having children now. You cannot go on forever just cashing on the dole. I said, that won't be enough to maintain yourself and your children. You need to try. If you're not going to get a job, try and get education. Go to college and do something. Even when working on the youth training scheme, some of the youngsters there, they were Rastafarian as well, and the lifestyle was different. And I'll say, look, you need to go to college and do something. And I've met up with some of them now, and they've got some qualification. So, you know, at least it worked out in a way. But there's a lot who have gone into further education, the young blacks who are here, and they're doing things a little different. So there's been some improvement, not the amount that I would like, because when I go into the civic, you go into the banks, you can hardly count the blacks on your hand, one or two, especially in the areas that pays good salary. They are not there, and that sort of caused me to feel really sad. Whether or not they're not applying for the jobs or they're still being discriminated, I don't know. We have made some progress, but not the amount that I would like to see us make.
So to the present day now, what changes would you, apart from that, would you like to see happen?
I would like to see, at this time we're at, our young black men seems to be going in a direction that will not benefit them in the long run. The young children who are growing up, the examples that they're giving to them will not benefit them, whether they remain living in this country or wherever they go. You know.
What influence do you think that the young black men have?
The influence is negative, really, because it's like we are stereotyped by the white, aren't we? Because you're black, they're expecting certain things from you. And I think the young children, because they see the black men behave in a certain way, they think, well, that's all there is in life for black people. And it isn't so.
You'd like to see changes?
I'd like to see changes. But how will it happen? I don't know.
What contributions yourself do you feel that you've made since you've been here?
Looking back over the years, I think having raised my children and the little time that I had, I think I've tried to do what I can for the community. I was on the adoption panel for about 10 years, and I tried to educate and ensure that black children coming into the care system is treated or receive the care, you know, like the skin care, the air care. Just let people know what they need. So I try to play my part in that. And also to let people know that black people can care for children as well. And get them to understand that our culture is different, but at the same time, each one has got its role to play and can play it positively.
So with the adoption, the area of adoption, do you encourage that your children go to interculture or to different cultures? Does it matter?
To me, it matters. If, for instance, because I know what the work entails in a way, I know it's always difficult. Most time it's difficult to get placement for children. But what I encourage is that we try and find a placement that matches the child's need. Because when they're placed in a culture that doesn't match the needs, like the air, little girls here, Afro-Caribbean, needs to be plaited. If it isn't plaited, then it's got to be permed or something. So one is more expensive than the other. Wherein within the black carer, they know to plait the hair, you know, and give them that sort of need. The white person, they want to care for them, but there are some things that they don't understand, and they'll never be able to meet those. It's like the food. Because unless they prepare the foods in the house, the children know about that. So they'll have difficulty fitting into their own culture when they meet up with people from their own culture.
And as far as the church contribution, because you seem quite involved in your church as well. Yes,
I'm not very active now as I would like to, but the district secretary for the ladies band, but the local ladies group, I usually be there like weekly. It's a little difficult now because my health hasn't been too good, so when I work during the days and go home to get back out, it's a bit difficult for me sometimes, but I do enjoy the work in the church and the issues that is being addressed from time to time, especially seminars and things like that, is issues about young people, unmarried people, and that sort of thing. And those are something that is passionate to me. Because in the past, the church would say, well, let us pray and you leave things. But we know you've got to pray, but there are times when you need the hands-on, the positive things. So there's a number of things that I would like we need, what do you call, like you need people to be involved in the school, be involved in the community, because whatever I've got, whatever I know now is coming through being involved in the community. Reverend Joseph that was here, and Ben Cunningham. Those two men, they helped me to be where I am now. Without them giving me that support, I wouldn't be able to do what I've done. I mean, for instance, the project downstairs, Mrs. Witte, she was the, what do you call it now? She's the one who the idea came to. And Mr. Evans, he's in America. But they both approached Reverend Joseph, and he agrees with them. They set up this day thing for elderly people. That starts, we operate 2 days per week then in the church hall down there. And when they started first, we didn't get any grant or anything. So I usually cook the soup home, and I would buy the bread from the bread shop down the road, buy the disposable cup from Bishop next door. And every Thursday, every Tuesday, they'd have the cup of soup and the bread. Christmas time, Mrs. Witte would do the Christmas dinner, and we cook and manage down the church. What we do then, we would send the invoices in of how much we spent, and social services would refund us how much we spent, you know, and that's how we manage. Until 1982, when they start funding us on a part-time sort of basis, like not paid for any stuff or anything. We get allowance to volunteer, but that's it. And they cover the meals and travel expenses. And now we've developed to 5 days per week, catering for 150 to 180 day places per week. And we employ 9 staff, you know, and the pleasure that I get out of that is seeing my own people coming into a center where they can meet, talk their own language, make their own jokes, talk about the farm, you know, the river, the fish, whatever they used to do back home in their own environment. If I cannot look back at anything else and say I've achieved something, if I'm gone tomorrow, I know I've started something for my people. If nothing else, with the support of other people, because of myself I couldn't do it alone, but the support of my husband, the minister, and other members of the board. It's been hard work. It hasn't been easy. And I mean, for years, I've always said I'd like to see us operating in a more professional way, being funded, because these people, some have been here from the early 50s, some for the late 40s, and you know, as the years go by, they've worked hard, they've paid their contribution, their NI, their tax, everything, so they deserve it. We haven't reached where I'd like to see us be at the moment, but we're on our way there. And if nothing else, as I've worked in other center and I've seen the 1 or the 2 black person there, and when I see them, me approaching my age, I became a bit frightened, because I would hate to find myself in an environment where I don't feel comfortable to talk. And that's how it is with the few blacks who I saw in the other residential establishment. Here, they can talk. If they come from Barbados, Trinidad, or whatever it is, when they talk about yam, they know what they're talking about. There wasn't anything. And that's the basis that I look at it. There's something provided for elderly Afro-Caribbean where they can feel and be themselves.
So what hopes do you have?
I'm hoping that at some point I would like to see something going on up here for young mothers, unmarried mothers with children. In this establishment upstairs.
Right.
I would like to see something going on. And downstairs as well, but it would have to be in the evenings. Some sort of training, whether catering or something like that.
Or would that be open to the community?
To the community, but mainly whatever group has got the most needs. I would like to see that happening.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think I've looked back at times, and I know I was seriously ill in 1989, and I didn't think I'd be here today. And when I look at what the Lord has done for me, He's carried me through my sickness, and He's helped me to establish something that a lot more people is getting the benefit from it, then I do feel as if I have contributed to the community, to my people, and I couldn't ask God for anything more. I couldn't.
If there's a sentence or a word or something that you'd like to leave?
I would like to say I do trust that the younger people who are born in this country, educated in this country, grown up in the church in this country, my desire is that they find themselves something to do. They might be doing in the church at the moment, but there's something in the community, some contribution that they can make to their age group. Don't make the mistake that some of us, the older ones, have made. Because when we came here first, if we had got involved or know how to, then maybe we would have had even a better foundation laid for the younger ones. We did not know the custom of this country. The younger ones knows it. And I do hope that before too long, they'll roll their sleeves up, get their hands together, and do something.
Thank you very much.
Okay?
Bye.
Yeah, okay.